Well, here we are again. I no, I never know where to start. It's simply a matter of I just like to talk. Um, it's 5 a.m. in the morning. Just for you guys wondering, when do I do this? It's actually early in the morning, and the reason I do that is because I feel like between 4 a.m. and 6:30, 7 a.m., I'm still very connected with myself. Like I'm very just chill, just call it that way. And this is when I meditate, when I read, when I write, when I do a lot of the created stuff. Um, and so, yeah, I decided let's just use a bit of my time some of these days to share my thoughts. Um, Today, I don't even know where to start, but I think there's a general topic that I wanted to share, and it's all around being challenged and how that has actually shaped me to be who I am. Um, to start, I think being challenged is an amazing opportunity, but it can also be very difficult because when you're challenged, there is not just one part of you that is uncomfortable. There's a lot of parts of you that are uncomfortable. In my case, when I'm challenged, it's more than just my ego. It will, now it's not even to that level. Like, so what I want to try to share with you guys is how it has evolved. And so let's say I think I want to go back to when I was 16 or 17, when I was a kid, basically. So if you challenged me, you will break me. Like it was very easy to break me and to put me into like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself now. So I used to be challenged in terms of study. I used to be challenged in terms of friendships, relationships, and even sports. Like I wasn't good at any sport in general. Like I played a lot of sports, but I wasn't a sportsman. Um, there were certain people that respected me in terms of how much exercise or how much I could work out, and like, but it wasn't out of what I would call it achievements. There was only a few things that I was really, really good at, but it wasn't anything that would stand out that I could literally take forward. So at school, yeah, I struggle with the groups. I struggle with fitting in a happy medium because I had friends that I was really, really close to in terms of study and certain life aspects. But then there was also other ones that I also understood and I just felt part of that group in a way. So it was quite difficult to navigate through that. But then hanging with one group or another one would actually have effects on certain aspects of my life. I could be not doing so well in terms of grades, or I was doing really well, but then I was not as excited about other stuff. And as a kid, I do remember I was an explorer. I used to just look, I love exploring. I love just trying new things and challenging and all that. So it wasn't just as easy as I would have expect now. Like I think time changes, and the more you grow, like you understand more of yourself. And so moving forward, when I got to uni, I started a degree, and then that first degree didn't feel challenging in terms of relationships. I think I fit in perfectly. Like everyone, just I was just like everyone else. But then I decided to change degrees, and that was really difficult because I had already had experience at university, yet everyone that I was studying with was completely new. But there was just a different energy, and I got the degree. It was so easy for me to study that. Like it just felt natural. Yet other people, I just didn't fit in with the people. So there was always a challenge. There was always something happening in terms of where I was being challenged that just made it difficult. And the reality is like when I went through uni, I just didn't feel like going partying with people. I didn't feel like socializing, and not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't feel like the people around me would understood me. Like I just felt like completely out of my element in terms of people, and it was difficult to do assignments and stuff in groups because I just didn't get along with, not that I didn't get along. I was more of a lone ranger just because I felt misunderstood. And so university was easy in terms of my time there was easy, but in terms of social and all that, I didn't really come out with many friends. So that is what it is, and I guess it's a process of growth as well. And then fast forward like to about 10 years ago or 7 years ago, when I really, really started going into spirituality, I think the one thing that's made me who I am is actually being challenged. And you can tell now where that started. Like even back when I was very little and my family, I didn't fit in. Like my cousins and everything, it was an absolute struggle because they wanted certain type of cousins and I wasn't one of those. So it was kind of like I was on the sideline. So it was difficult in terms of relationships and stuff. And so fast forward to when I started really going into my own growth, I realized that was just the prep to understanding who I really was, right? Like life doesn't put anything in front of us just because, oh, you're gonna be a misfit just because. It's experience that I needed to go through. So when I got to discover myself, the process made just so much more sense. And and it all starts with challenging everything, like challenging it. And I was thinking of an analogy, and the simplest one I can think of is imagine a really, really, really complex court case, and you have a lawyer. The lawyer doesn't just turn up and try to defend that person or try to go against that person. They need to try to find every single hole in the law, in the structure, in everything. So it's not like they just know. No, they sit down and they study. What about this law? Does it apply? Is there a hole that we can find? Is there a hole on this one? Can we use this one in our defense? Can we use this one to help us here? It's a relentless search for challenging grounds. And that's what I started doing with myself. I started challenging everything that I was, right? I started challenging the way I dressed, the way I smoked, not smoked, the way I dressed, the way I looked, the way I ate, the way I studied, slept, did exercise, had relationships, everything. I challenged it and I started looking for holes in my story, right? Like just imagine I was in front of God and God went, well, what's your argument to saving yourself? And so I will literally find the holes. And if I found a hole, I knew there was something I needed to change. And a lot of that became a game. So I would challenge myself for a game. And there's a big part of my life story. If you know me, you know that at some point I had an open relationship, but that didn't just start because, oh yeah, that sounds awesome. And no, I literally challenged in like up to my sexual beliefs because I felt like we're not given the space to really discover and explore who we are sexually. We are literally thrown in a pit and they expect us to behave just like everyone else. But that's not the case. That is probably the one area where most people are following rules that they're not meant to follow. And I've had this conversation with a bunch of people, and it was the same conversation I had with myself: is at what point did you explore sexuality to decide what type of relationship you want in terms of sexuality? Do you believe in monogamy? Do you believe in polyamory? Do you believe in open relationships? Do you believe in love? Do you believe in whatever it is that you believe, and where does that come from? And so I did that with so many areas of my life. I did that with money. I did that, and I still do every so and so, because if I don't challenge, I'm definitely feeling complacent. That means that I'm taking myself too serious. That means that whatever I'm doing, I'm thinking I have to be a god at that. Like it's a Superman complex, and we all have it. Like that is the funniest thing, because we think we're humble, but I think humbleness comes from being able to challenge and going, oh, I'm not that good. I'm just doing what I know right now. And that is probably the biggest takeaway. Is just, are you doing things because you're aware of them, or are you doing them unaware? And then you are literally doing them because that's the best you can do with what you know right now. And a lot of compassion comes from that, but also it's fun to challenge it. So I think that actually made a massive difference. And funny enough, Because of that, I'm still a misfit. So because I can make fun of myself, and sometimes I forget that people are not that aware that they don't challenge themselves, and then I try to challenge it in a funny way, and it just doesn't come across well. But it's not that I have bad intentions, it's that I do that to myself. I challenge myself, and I make jokes about like, huh, also you think you're gonna keep this up, right? And I say that to myself, and then I have to go, ooh, am I gonna keep that up, or was that just an impulse that I had? um, and so it's very interesting that the tool that's brought me so much freedom also puts me in a category where people are just not as comfortable with that. So yeah, challenging yourself is probably the or myself has been the biggest lesson out of my life, because every time I challenge something I find gaps. And when I was sharing the other day about where I was and how I felt and everything, a lot of that is just because I challenge. It's because I feel like, hang on, let's just pause, and am I really where I want to be? Or is, well, and I know as a fact that everything we are and do is absolutely perfect and in line with who we need to be. I fully believe in Dharma. I fully believe that whatever you're here to do, you would do. And there's nothing you can do to stop it, because that's part of your journey as a soul. The game for me became, well, if I'm going to do all those things unconsciously, at least I want to be aware that I'm doing them, even if I can't control them, because it's beautiful to see your own journey unfolding, right? Like, and your own growth and all that. Um, and there's just so much that's changed for me since I started doing all this. I am aware of my own journey. I'm aware of where I need to grow. I'm aware of what I have, when I haven't grown and I could have grown, and that's all okay. It's just awareness, and because of all those things, I get to challenge myself. So the one thing that probably tough on myself is actually challenging. If I stop challenging myself, then I feel like I'm not growing, and that's also perfect. But I think I still need a little bit of that. Well, I'm gonna challenge myself, because if I don't, then what's the point, right? It's part of this human journey. And so I'm trying to stick to being like challenging myself as a theme, because I can get into so many topics and just connect them all. And they all do connect. They absolutely all connect. But this one, I could probably write a book on, because it's just so much fun. And if you want to try it yourself, then please do so, because there's nothing better than being able to laugh at yourself. Like, I'm even laughing at myself for not being able to stick to the one topic, right? Like, a lot of people beat themselves up, like, oh my God, I changed topics and I couldn't stick to. I love it. I think it's funny, because the more I try to find jokes about myself, the more I'm growing, the more gaps I'm finding, the more aware I'm becoming. And if you want to try this, just please laugh at everything you are. Just laugh at everything you are. Like, laugh at how serious you are, or how funny you are, or every action you take. Try to find the funny side, and just make a joke of yourself. And that you'll see how freeing that becomes. It's quite amazing to really challenge it, and just, it's like, yeah, standing in front of the jury, and the jury is just laughing at you, and you're like, ooh. So that's a good analogy. If you're actually going to trial and you're presenting a case, and then everyone just laughs at you, how would you feel? All right, like, that's one of those life experiences that like most of us are so scared and run away from being embarrassed, from doing a silly one, from looking silly in front of others, that we don't actually even try to experience it. And but the fun part is that the more you do it, the more you embarrass yourself, the more stupid shit you do. And I swear, I hope that that's okay with everyone. The more stupid stuff you do, like, the more fun you start having, because then you don't care so much about what other people think. And I think I'm changing a little bit topics here, but part of challenging that is the biggest thing you got to challenge are things like, how much do I care about what other people think of me? And how much do I care about my own opinion? Or how much do I care about others just in general? And there's an evolution to that, but I'm just going to leave that for maybe another time. But the point that I'm making is, if you can't have fun with yourself, it's just really, really difficult to change who you are. And if you say, but I don't need to change who I am, then I hope you're enlightened, because we all do. We all need to grow. We all need to experience new things. And if this is just the one life you have, are you gonna go home having lived just the one experience? Right? Like that was my question for me. If this is the one life that I have, am I going to die and say, oh, I only had one set of belief systems and I just lived them throughout my whole life? I decided, no, I want to try everything. I want to try everything, every experience, every emotion, everything that people consider good or bad. Like, I will challenge it. And I did. And this is actually difficult. And it's probably a step that I took, and I spent probably 2 years trying this, and it was challenging everything that people said that's wrong. Not from a legal perspective, like I didn't go and rob a bank, but I did try the things that would actually mean that I was breaking the system. And this is difficult, because unless you are in the space of challenging yourself and doing it from a growth experience, then you are actually challenging things that it might go a little bit too far. But I'll give you an example. There was a point where, when I was challenging relationships and everyone said cheating is bad, like cheating is not okay, I needed to experience that. So I cheated, and I went through a really bad breakup, like really bad. But then I learned from that experience, and now I'm not attached to that. Like, that meaning, it doesn't mean the same. Like, I learned so much. I've learned that, like, from that experience, like cheating in a relationship, it's not what people say. It's not the act of physically touching someone else. It's actually the mental act. And that was awesome, because I didn't do the mental act, I did the physical act. And so I was so afraid of the meaning behind that, because I challenged it, that when the mental side of it, the relationship came up, it was actually a difficult breakup, but it opened my eyes to so many things. And so I know that's probably a difficult thing to hear if you if you believe in the one thing and everything. But I can say at the end of my life, oh yeah, I challenged beliefs, and I challenged them hard. I didn't hold back. I've gone through so many things that is just so much fun to really, really, really challenge who I am. I've put on weight, and then I've challenged that, going, but that's not who I am. That doesn't belong here, and I lost it in a heartbeat. But it was because I already had the experience of challenging something big, and the feeling behind that I was able to challenge even my physicality, to the point where I lost so much, like 15 kilos within like 3 weeks. How I did it, I don't know. And some people say, oh, just have the body type and everything, blah, blah, blah. But I think it goes beyond that. But everyone has their own experience. That's my experience from my own challenging experience, right? So yeah, like I said, I could write a book about this, because I've gone through so much stuff in terms of what I've challenged. But what I wanted to share here is, it's how important it is. It's how good it actually feels to go through the fence and realizing the grass is the same everywhere. It's just how you perceive it. And every experience has its pros and its cons, but it's all just an experience. There is no win or loss or anything like that. That's dualities. And I think I'm gonna make my next video on that, how we live life around dualities. Like, why does life have to be good or bad? Why is it that we compare things? Oh, I'm better or worse than that person. Dualities and judgment and comparison, I think those three are life killers, because there's just so much we can do with life, and yet we're stuck comparing ourselves with others, judging others and judging ourselves. Just like if we hold the rule book, that's not the case at all. And I think letting go of that and actually learning how to just experience life for what it is, it's such a freeing experience. And so yeah, I might actually chat about that next time. I hope you enjoyed that. I might have gone a little bit deep, but that's who I am. And yeah, and thank you for listening. If you turn up, I appreciate you watching, and I might see you around. See ya. Think takes forever to stop.